come over here and not scream. I'm a burning effigy of everything I used to be. You're my rock of fantasy, my dear. Let me entertain.
Hi, I am Crystal from AT&T Natural Voices. And welcome to iOS Developing Essential Training. In this course I'll show you how to program application run on the iPhone and other iDevices. Creating iOS apps is fun and rewarding. And if you're a new developer, you might be wondering where to begin. This training provides the perfect starting point for iOS app development. On your Mac computer, you can create iOS apps that run on iPad, iPhone, and iPod Touch. Follow this training to learn where to get the tools you need, understand the major concepts and best practices, and see where to find more information. As you proceed through the training, you will use code and the iOS SDK, Apple's tools for app development. You will learn the basics of programming with Objective-C, the language that powers all iOS apps and frameworks, and will explore the Cocoa Touch frameworks. You will create a simple iOS app and learn how to test it on a device. Finally, you will learn how to submit an app to the App Store. In this section we will check how to be an iOS developer and what we need before starting developing. In this section I'm going to show how to download and install iOS Development IDE, which is Xcode. So what you have to do, open the Mac App Store. If you don't have Mac App Store, Google it and download. Xcode in the Mac App Store has been repackaged and is now distributed as a standalone application. This replaces the Install Xcode package and adds support for Delta updates. Xcode includes a new Downloads preference pane to install optional components such as command line tools and previous iOS simulators. We can see App Store icon in the dock and also in the Launchpad. I'm open the Mac App Store by clicking the Launchpad. When App Store has loaded, let's go to the search bar and search Xcode. Xcode come to the first result, and it say Developer Tools. So inside this it has description, screenshots, and also the installing area. Clicking this button we can install Xcode. I have already installed it into my system, but I'm just clicking on it. It download app to Launchpad. By opening Launchpad we can click Install Xcode. Click on it once to open it, and it shows the Xcode installer. Clicking Install in the installer you can install the Xcode into system. I am not going to install it because I already have installed the app into my system. After the installation we can find Xcode on the dock, and also we can find it on the Launchpad, in Developer section. It should open. If the new installation of Xcode recent section should be empty. Also you have these options. Go through these options, and let's learn how to create our first app. When you develop apps, you use the iOS Software Development Kit in Xcode, Apple's integrated development environment. Xcode provides everything you need to create great apps for iPhone, iPod Touch, and iPad. It includes a source editor, a graphical user interface editor, and many other features, from customizable builds to source repository management. Xcode employs a single window, called the Workspace window, that holds most of the data you need. With Xcode, you smoothly transition from writing code to debugging to designing your user interface, all within the same window. The iOS SDK extends the Xcode toolset to include the tools, compilers, and frameworks you need specifically for iOS, so Apple will give you for free. The iOS SDK. This includes all the program you needed to write your iPhone applications, but that's not the whole story. You also want to publish them to the App Store, and also you want to copy them into your own device. That costs money. That will require you to join the iPhone developer program. So with the software that Apple give you for free, you get an iPhone simulator, and you can write and test iPhone applications. But you can't just plug in the iPhone and copy your program across. It doesn't work like that. You have to do what's called provisioning your device in order to copy your programs to it. On developer.apple.com there is information about joining the developer program. To make a great iOS app, you need to learn many things. But the tools in the iOS SDK make it easy to get an app up and running. The tutorial Your First iOS App introduces the tools, the fundamental design patterns, and the application development process. As you follow the tutorial, you create a simple app that accepts a user's text input and prints it on the screen. You also learn how to run your app in simulator on your Mac. The simple steps in the tutorial introduce elegant, useful concepts that you use over and over again in app development. Your First iOS App introduces you to the 3 T's of iOS app development. The first one is Tools. In this section we check how to use Xcode to create and manage a project. Second one is Technologies. In this part we check how to create an app that responds to user input. And the last one is Techniques. In this section, how to take advantage of some of the fundamental design patterns that underlie all iOS app development. After you complete all the steps in this tutorial, you'll have an app that looks something like this. As you can see, there are 3 main user interface elements in the app that you create. A text field, in which the user enters information. A label, in which the app displays information. A button, which causes the app to display information in the label. When you run the finished app, you click inside the text field to reveal the system-provided keyboard. After you use the keyboard to type your name, you dismiss it by clicking its Done key, and then you click the Hello button to see the string Hello, your name, in the label between the text field and the button. To benefit from this tutorial, it helps to have some familiarity with the basics of computer programming in general, and with object-oriented programming, and the Objective-C language in particular. If you haven't used Objective-C before, don't worry if the code in this tutorial is hard to understand. When you start developing iOS apps today, you'll understand the code much better. To create the iOS app in this tutorial, you need Xcode 4.3 or later. Xcode is Apple's integrated development environment for both iOS and Mac OS X development. When you install Xcode on your Mac, you also get the iOS SDK, which includes the programming interfaces of the iOS platform. To get started developing your app, you create a new Xcode project. To create a new project, open Xcode. By default it is in Applications. If you've never created or opened a project in Xcode before, you should see a Welcome to Xcode window similar to this. If you've created or opened a project in Xcode before, you might see a project window instead of the Welcome to Xcode window. In the Welcome to Xcode window, click Create a new Xcode project, or choose File, New Project. Xcode opens a new window and displays a dialog in which you can choose a template. Xcode includes several built-in app templates that you can use to develop common styles of iOS apps. For example, the tab template creates an app that is similar to iTunes, and the master detail template creates an app that is similar to Mail. What is next? In the iOS section, at the left side